Good evening, everyone. Hi, this is Sherry Sims, founder of Black Career Women's Network, and thank you for tuning in for another career conversation tonight. Our special guest is Janelle Hazelwood. She is a chief content strategist, and she also is the founder of the Boss Moves. And she has come back with us for part 2 of our conversation about monetizing your purpose. So she was here a couple of weeks ago and she talked about turning your purpose into passion. So tonight she's going to be talking about how to monetize that via networking. And so I know that this is always a great topic for people to talk about, because some people like to network and some people do not like to network. So she's going to be sharing a lot of tips and tools in reference to really utilizing networking to monetize your purpose. So Janelle, welcome back to tonight's career conversation.
Hello, thank you for having me back, Sherry. It was awesome doing part 1 on monetizing your purpose and the steps you should take in order to do that. So I'm glad to be back.
Yes, I'm glad you're back as well. So let's just jump right in with our viewers. And first of all, if this is your first time on a career conversation, there are a couple of ways that you can ask Janelle some questions. You can ask her some questions via through Twitter at JP Hazelwood, or you can also ask her some questions through our Twitter handle at BCW Network. If you are in our Google Hangout right now, please utilize the Q&A box, and we have it right on our screen, and we can answer your questions that way as well. For those of you who are Facebook savvy, please use our Facebook group and we have both of those up on our screen so we can monitor for any questions that may come through. So just wanted to share that with you all. And if you're watching live from our website at bcwnetwork.com, please utilize the Facebook group and also our Twitter account as well. All right, let's jump right in, Miss Janelle, with part 2 of this. Is there anything that you want to recap from part 1 that maybe someone who missed it that can kind of understand kind of what the series means in terms of monetizing your purpose? Anything you want to recap from part 1?
Okay, well, in part 1, we did talk about some strategy in terms of those who want to go from employee to entrepreneur. Oftentimes when people monetize their purpose, that equals entrepreneurship. So we talked a bit about that in terms of how do you transition from that. So we talked about 3 steps. First, you start by freelancing and doing some entrepreneurship within what you're doing if what your purpose and passion is related to your current occupation. And then we also talked about the second step, which was prepare yourself financially, scale yourself, get to know what you're great at, test out a product or a service first before you take the full leap. And also just the third one is knowing your why. So why do you want to do this? What is your purpose? Look into prayer, look into experiences, doing things that you may not like, or finding out what you don't like in order to know what you do like or what you are great at. So trying different things to even find out what is my purpose to even monetize it. So we talked about those 3 steps. And then those who don't want to go into entrepreneurship as well, we also talked about, monetizing your purpose doesn't always mean entrepreneurship. It typically means doing something that you are passionate about, that God gave you to do, that you do well, instead of just taking any job just for the money, to be unfulfilled. Maybe you're holding a position that's for someone else who is more passionate about what you're doing. Maybe you should pivot into, monetizing your purpose as to what you were put here to do. And also that can change as well. It changes throughout the years. The nature of it may change. And we also talked about my journey as well, being a budding entrepreneur and having left full-time work to pursue the Boss Moves, which is a consultancy for women and minority entrepreneurs, helping them with media branding, content creation, their web presence, and those sorts of things that I saw working for companies such as Black Enterprise, the New York Times, in terms of pitching, in terms of their branding, different things that I saw were issues and challenges that I felt I should be the resource. That's something we talked about as well in terms of, really scaling the whole process, and that you don't have to take the leap. And also it doesn't necessarily mean, entrepreneurship all the time. Even though I do advocate for entrepreneurship, I think everyone should have a side hustle. Everyone should have some, more than one stream of income, especially with something that you love. Like, even if you think it's totally dumb or totally wacky, And you know, not every hobby too is something to monetize. We talked about that as well. Just because you're
Yeah, we
great
did.
at it, yeah, or because you love it doesn't mean that you should do it for a profit or for a fee. You know, so just deciphering between the two, whether it's just a hobby that you just love doing, you would do it for free, or if it's something that you really should monetize because that's what you're here to do. So yeah, that's pretty much the recap of what happened at the last one. And we were actually in the parking lot, which was very interesting. I was taking from the parking lot. I was traveling, you guys. Now I'm in New York. It's like 90 degrees here. So if you see me sneeze or kind of like, looking a bit greasy, it got hot like all of a sudden, literally. Like the day turned and it was 90 degrees. It went from like 60 to 90. So we're catching up. It's always something with the boss moves here. So yeah, so that's pretty much the recap.
Yes, as Janelle said 2 weeks ago, we were parking lot pimping, huh?
We were. I had to wing it, you guys, because I didn't want to miss you guys. I was traveling. I didn't want to be late, and I wanted to be sure, to show up for Sherry, and to share some of the insights, with you guys in terms of the career conversations, which are very important. And I hope it was really much of a resource. So if you saw the part one, you're like, where in the world is this girl? What happened to her hair? I got a different wig on for part two, you guys. I got a little wet and wavy going on right now, trying to get my summer thing going on. The last one was short hair. So they're probably like, who is this girl? It's still me, just a little added extensions there. But yeah, we had fun just talking about, finding your purpose, knowing the difference between a hobby and something you can monetize, transitioning and scaling your process in terms of monetizing your purpose. And finding markets. That was another great point too. How do you know your niche? How do you find your market? So we talked a bit about that in terms of doing your research, looking at your competitors. Even if they're large companies, they're still competitors in your head, people where you want to be, people who are serving the audience and the community that you want to serve. So just knowing to do your research, asking around to your advisors, your group of advisors, which could be family and friends. It could be another group of entrepreneurs via mastermind. It could be your former coworkers or former bosses in terms of getting reviews and just filling out the industry, filling out basically what you offer, whether it's even something that can be monetized, whether it's something that's competitive in the market and not just the next thing that's just going to be like, okay, we've seen that before, what's different about you. So that was a great point too as well, finding your niche and how do you market to an audience, find your audience and market to it. So it was a really good conversation.
So if you didn't have an opportunity to catch the career conversation that we did with Janelle 2 weeks ago, it was on May 18th, right?
Mm-hmm.
May 11th.
It was the 11th. Yeah,
May 11th. And you can catch that in our live video library on our website, or you can also go to our YouTube channel if you want to catch up and find out all the good stuff she was talking about in reference to monetizing your purpose. And I really loved how we were talking about the whole, how sometimes some hobbies don't need to be, make money in those. So we have to keep that in mind. So let's jump right into the networking piece. So I know what I put on the promo part was about how networking can be so uncomfortable for some people, specifically introverts, right? And so we want to talk about a little bit about really this whole, what it really means to network, and, kind of some of the etiquette things that you should think about. What do you think? What are your suggestions for people who not just are introverts, but what specifically is what should be their purpose? Should they strategize? Should they put an agenda together? What do you think they should be doing if they're trying to monetize their purpose via networking? Where should they start? What should be the first thing or doing to get started?
Okay, well, I always say this because I also coach people doing career advancement, so job search and that sort of thing. And I always tell them, start with the why, though. Everything has a why. There should be a purpose to everything that you do. Even some of your leisurely stuff, it could seem kind of mediocre as to why you want to take a walk or why you want to hang out, or it's Memorial Weekend. Why do you want to go to that party? There's a reason for everything that we do. So you have to kind of apply that. So what's the why? Why are you attending this event? Why are you talking to this person? What is your goal in terms of talking with them? And some people may disagree with me. They will say, well, I can find leads from anywhere, so I don't really have a strategy. Or I could talk to the mail guy and, it could be something, or it could be nothing. There doesn't necessarily have to be a reason. I don't think so when it comes to monetizing your purpose, especially early on. I think you should have a strategy. So first, think of the why. Whenever you're going to events, it's great to strategize on your calendar even. Find out, what organization is throwing this event, what sponsors are going to be there, what types of people are going to be there, what are they about. Maybe look up some of the speakers' LinkedIn profiles. That's the second thing, do your research. So look up the organization. Look up their members. Who do you think will be in the room? You already know panelists and speakers. They're definitely going to be there because either they're contracted or it's already been marketed. So you should get to know who they are. Get to know a little something about them. Look at their social media profiles. And even when you're setting out to do strategic networking, I'm not just talking about attending events just because, or just trying to be that so-called social butterfly, or that person that just wants to be seen on the scene all the time. First of all, that gets costly, number one. So what's your return on investment with that? You spent gas money, transit money to get to an event. That's a cost there. Secondly, that's a time cost, time capital you cannot get back. That's something that's not recoupable, time. So I would say just be sure that you do your research to know, who's going to be in the room. Because it's not even just about being fake or Googling someone, because someone may feel weird about that. It's not about that. It's literally about having a background as to who you're speaking with, why you're spending time with them, and also just to get to know them, just in case, you may want to build a relationship with them. People are much more endeared to people who have done their research. For instance, when people pitch me for a Black enterprise, for instance, it's great when they know, oh yeah, you're Janelle Hazelwood. This is your position. This is what you cover. But I can tell when someone doesn't know me when they're pitching me like entertainment stories, or when I cover, career or small business. You get what I'm saying? So it just gives you more credibility. The person is more likely to be endeared to you if, for the second step, you have done your research on them. And don't do that awkward stuff like, oh yeah, I Googled you, or you don't have to be that transparent. Go with the flow. Networking is like dating. It's like, if you were on a date, what would turn you off in terms of the person just meeting you? If you sat down with a person and say, hey, so what's your credit score? Oh yeah, I Googled you and I saw that you live at such and such. I mean, it would really creep you out, right? So yeah. The third step is don't do things that you wouldn't want done to you. And sometimes that can be subjective, because some people think certain things are inappropriate or creepy or, a bit weird that other people don't. But try to use discernment with that. And tread lightly. Keep it simple. Don't try too hard. Be yourself. So whenever you're approaching people at events or you're going to events, once you know who they are, why do you need to know? Like, why do you need to meet Oprah? Seriously. Like, we love Oprah. Not to say why do you need to meet her, because everybody needs to meet her. But I'm just using her as an example because she's like she's up here for me. She is like my benchmark for success in terms of media. Why would I want to meet Oprah, and what would I say when I met her, right? So I wouldn't immediately pitch her. You already know she's a billionaire. She probably gets so many pitches. However, if there was something that really touched me, and I would say, okay, there's the goal. I'm meeting her because she really touched my life. And that's it. But if you really wanted to work with Oprah, the person you need to meet is someone on her team. You need to meet someone on her PR team, her assistant, maybe even her dog walker, her maid, someone that she trusts, because she gets so many pitches. So think about things in that way as well. When you meet top tier people, don't try to go for the big guy first. Try to go for the support team, the people that they trust. So that's another thing to think about too when you go to events. Don't always try to go for the top person, because first, it looks really fake and it looks really like you're an opportunist. And second, that person is not going to remember anything you're talking about. Like, they meet so many people, they have so much at stake, especially multimillionaires and billionaires and investors. They meet so many people. So that's another step I would say as well. Don't just go for the top people. Oftentimes at events, people will say, hey, what do you do? And I hate that question, because it's like, okay, so if I tell you I'm a circus clown, are you going to just say, okay, no, that's okay, good meeting you? But if I tell you I'm Janelle Hazelwood from Black Enterprise, or I'm Janelle Hazelwood from New York Times, all of a sudden your face is like perking up. To me, that, again, it's not authentic. It's great to have that kind of prestige, notable by what you do, and it's actually, you know, you've earned that, so it's great. But don't wear that on your sleeve. You don't want to just meet people just because what you believe they can do for you. I like people who say, hey, you seem like a cool person, or I saw you speak, or yeah, I already know who you are. I read your article, etc., etc. Let's talk, you know. So that's the next step, I would say. Did I answer the question? Because I think I sometimes go off on tangents.
No, you did.
Yeah.
Just go off on tangents. No, you did. You did. And let's go into talking to hopefully there's some, you know, people who are viewing who are possible introverts on, you know, that are viewing tonight. And I know that sometimes it's hard for introverts or some types of introverts, because some introverts can be very sociable. But for the ones who may have a hard time with the networking, how do they go in and move and shake in the room and to be able to make those connections? And then, you know, how should they follow up, which we'll talk about in a moment. But pretty much, what's your suggestion to the introverts that are listening right now or watching right now, in terms of what should they do to kind of move and shake in the room and get to know, you know, some of the people that are there?
Okay, now here's the thing. I love introverts. I love you guys. You actually have something that many major leaders have. They say that President Obama is actually an introvert. Y'all can look that up, but they do say that he's actually he's on those lists of famous introverts. So you're among a highly elite group of people. So you don't always have to be the biggest voice in the room. You don't have to be the most boastful voice. As a matter of fact, I'm somewhat of an introvert. I enjoy being alone. However, when it's time for me to shine, it's kind of almost like Beyonce and the Sasha Fierce thing. I know how to turn it on when I need to. So I'm a person that likes to watch a room. I'm a person that likes to observe a person's spirit. I'm very spiritual. So I like to observe a person's spirit. I'm not going to just jump in, especially when the boastful or the loudmouth person is talking. I actually like to listen to this person and just kind of feel the scene, because oftentimes the loudest person in the room is the biggest fool. That's something that my grandmother taught me early, and I've learned it over the years. You don't have to be the loudest person in the room. However, don't be a shrinking violet as well. You know, you got to really know how to sell yourself. And a lot of us women, we do that as well. We'll go in a room and all the men are selling themselves, meaning they are confident. They're telling you who they are, and they're telling you what they do, what they offer. Let's work together. While women are kind of like sitting around talking to the person that they know, you know, standing in the corner. And she's accomplished so much. There's so many people she could work with, so many partnerships. There's so much, as they say, money in the room, and you're sitting over here losing out. So I would say tread in the middle. Watch the room. Also for introverts, because I wrote about this. I also have a blog on Black Enterprise called My Two Cents. You can check that out on blackenterprise.com. It's called My Two Cents. And I wrote about this, about the power of introverts and what you should do. Oftentimes a good tip is this: have something that's distinctive about you in terms of when you walk in a room. So it could be something you wear, it could be your hair, it could be your perfume. You know, you don't want to do too much with the perfume and the fragrances and the colors, but like Sherry wears a blue flower, right? That's your signature thing, the blue flower. Kind of reminds you of like the Billie Holiday. So you're going to notice Sherry in a room. She may have a black suit on, but she has that flower. It's a conversation piece, and it's something beautiful that draws people to you. So let's say you're a person, look, I know a great leader. She always wears fabulous hats. Or if you think of people like Iris Apfel, I think that's her name, she always wears lots of jewelry. It's like always a conversation piece. She's gotten opportunities not only for her expertise in terms of fashion design and interior design, but also the way she looks when she walks in a room. Like, she has to say nothing. She's another one, too, that I believe is an introvert. But the way she dressed, her name is Iris Apfel. And she's another person I look to. For me, it's always the hair. You know, for me, my thing is hair. So people will say, oh, wow, I didn't recognize you. In your pictures, you had short hair. See, that's a conversation starter, the hair. So find some sort of icebreaker or something that's different or interesting about you. It also could be, what are you passionate about? Sometimes as an introvert, once you tell us something or start speaking about something that you're passionate about, that Sasha Fierce comes out. So try to find those icebreakers that, let's say on the panel, for instance, it was, you know, about, you know, Black women and wealth building. or it was about, you know, social media. We talked about this on a Twitter chat I did earlier about social media envy. If that's something that you're passionate about, that's a great icebreaker. You can say, hey, how are you? You know, my name is such and such. Did you hear what she said about such and such and such? And, you know, that's something to talk about, to, you know, to get things going. Also, if you're an introvert and you really have anxiety, bring that friend that is the extrovert. You guys could be the good cop, bad cop, because I have been that person as well with some of my friends who are a little bit more shy than I am. And I'm like the stage mom. I'll say, hey, this is Sherry Sims. She has the Black Career Women's Network. You two should talk, you know, and then I'll just walk off. You know, I'll just leave you there like the stage mom. So sometimes you do need that girlfriend. Again, like dating, it's like, you know, you go to a bar or wherever you date, church or whatever. Many people take their girlfriend or their homeboy to be their wing person. It's the same thing for networking. Now, here's the thing with the wing person. Just be sure they're not that hater friend that's trying to outshine you or trying to, you know, get opportunities above you. This should be more of a partnership. I think once that person has the opportunity or they've captured the attention, maybe you should, you know, shuffle off a bit, you know, exit yourself, or maybe there's a way for you to talk about something else that doesn't take away from the introverted friend. So just be careful of that. Also, here's another thing. Practice. Right? Practice. It's the same thing again, like dating, job interviews, anything that you're doing socially, there's always opportunities to practice. Challenge yourself. You know, give yourself a challenge. Once a month, I'm going to go to this meetup. And each time I'm going to challenge myself to just go walk up to someone and say, hey, how you doing? I'm so-and-so. That's it. You have no expectations. You're not trying to get anything out of the person. It's practice to kind of get you in the groove of things, to build your confidence, and to also help you with, you know, your social graces, right? So I would say, you know, maybe once a month go to a meetup, a bar, a park, your fitness class, YMCA. Just, you know, approach a person, may not be of the opposite sex, because like I said, some people take that a different way, so you may want to tread lightly with that. But, you know, just introduce yourself, or just say, compliments are great too for introverts. I love a good compliment. So if you say, you know, genuine, of course, hey, those are cool shoes you have on. Where'd you get those? Flattery and compliments really work as well. And I'm sorry, someone asked me one time when I mentioned this on a panel once, they're like, well, what if you don't really like their shoes? Okay, my answer to that is, well, why are you even talking to this person? You know, if you're hating on their shoes, then I don't know what to tell you, honey. There's some other issues there. You know, if you can't give someone a compliment on something about them, you know, maybe there are other things you need to be working on. So there has to be something about a person that you can give them a compliment. That's another great icebreaker. So like I said, for introverts, first thing, definitely use that to your advantage. Watch the room, watch the power players, watch how people move. Don't be the loudest person in the room, because sometimes the loudest person is a fool. Secondly, wear something or embody something that brings attention to you, not in a bad way, but in a good way. You know, I mentioned Sherry's the blue flower, which is her signature, that she wears, like a blue flower pen, right? It's like a pen that Sherry wears. And I always know Sherry has on that blue pen, girl, that's Sherry, girl. Or Sherry has a natural curly hair. You know, stuff that's distinctive about you that someone would be able to relate with. The third thing is use icebreakers for things that you are passionate about, issues that you're passionate about, or something from the event that you gleaned from the panel, and use that to be an icebreaker. And fourth, test yourself once a month. Go somewhere. It doesn't have to be alone. You can bring your wing person, which I talked about that. You can bring that person to be the safe person with you. And, you know, introduce yourself to people. Break out of your comfort zone. Get out there, go to meetups, and join organizations where you're forced to kind of interact with people, because it really will help you. And also you'll meet other introverted people who, you know, maybe you can relate with them. Because like I said, the most powerful leaders are introverts. Extroverts, I love you as well. We all have our extrovert qualities, but introverts, you have a very powerful quality that you can use for networking that kind of puts you a cut above the rest.
And don't you agree, though, Janelle, that the introverts are sometimes misunderstood, that they think that they're, you know, because I know I have a couple of friends who are introverts, and but they are social butterflies. You get them out in a crowd, and they just, you know, but at the same time, they're good at that stuff, but then they really like to be alone, and they really spend a lot more time alone. They just really are what I call socialized,
Right.
introverts, and they can go to a room like nobody's business, but they're back to kind of their own private lives once they're out of that element. So
Right, right.
I think sometimes they're misunderstood, or the perception of what an introvert is sometimes is not exactly what they think it is.
No, it's true. The perception of the introvert is actually oftentimes incorrect because it doesn't mean being shy.
Right.
It means just what you said. They enjoy the company of themselves a bit more. Extroverts feed off of other people's energy and they enjoy being around a lot of people. Introvert, so when you do look up the definition, it doesn't necessarily mean you're shy or you're a person who can't socially interact with people or you're constantly playing the wall. So yeah, you're right. People do have misconceptions about introverts.
Yeah, I think they do. Okay, so what about, let's talk about specifically the when you're getting new connections. Let's talk about etiquette for that. Following up the right way. How do you follow up with connections the right way?
Okay, so I've always said be of service. And also, okay, there's two different scenarios with this. One scenario could be a follow-up could be when the person has expressed interest in connecting with you and in following up with you. Because sometimes people, I mean, this does seem like a duh moment, but there are people out here who will take someone's car and the person has said, yes, call me, and they won't call the person. They'll either email or text or do nothing at all. And it's like, okay, most power players, they're not just giving you their cards just for fun. Like, they don't just hand out cards. So most leaders, Fortune 500 CEOs, and, people who are trying to make money out here, who are trying to do something innovative, they're not telling you that for their health, most of them, right? I would say 90%. So actually, follow up and do what they ask. Call them. Or if they say, you know what, here's my card, email or call me anytime, maybe give it 24 hours or even wait until you get home and say, great meeting you. Me personally, cards, I'm not really into cards, to be honest, because I usually just dump them in my bag and they all get screwed up and I never really can remember who's who. So I myself will say, okay, as soon as I get home, I'm just going to go ahead and email these people and say, great meeting you. And I always make it personable. So don't do like some mass email that says, great meeting you at this event. Like, try to make it individualized. And that goes back to why you're networking with particular people, because I'm not a card collector. If I don't really see any synergies, there's really no need for me to collect your card. Also, for me, at the level of my career, I'm not trying to just meet people just because. I mean, I love having friendships and that sort of thing, but at a networking event, I'm not necessarily looking for friends. This is different from, attending a party or a concert or a baby shower, a wedding. That's different. But if this is a networking event, I'm really looking for people who I can partner with, or maybe people who I can get clients, or be leads to clients, or who can really connect me with in some sort of business capacity. So if we become friends, that's great, but I'm not there to just collect cards for you and say, hey girl, how you doing? No. So I don't have like 20 cards in my bag of people who I have to email. So someone might have been thinking, well, dang, do I have to email all 20 people individually? If you collected 20 cards, you may have a problem there. Why did you collect those? And secondly, yes, if there were 20 people in the room who you're trying to get investments from, you're trying to be a partner with, you're trying to set up meetings with, yes, you do need to address them personally. Secondly, be sure to say in the subject line where you met them, because sometimes when people are searching through their emails, they may be able to reference that. It'll at least jog their memory, and it's very quick for them to remember you. To say great meeting you to someone, like me or like you, Sherry, who meet people all the time at events. It's like, meet you where? I'm so sorry, but girl, I don't remember. Like, great meeting you, but where? How do we meet? In what capacity? Because we meet so many people. I have over 3,000 emails in my Gmail alone, and at work, my inbox gets filled all the time. I think I have at least 500 to 700 emails in there. So, And that's really bad. I can't say that. I do need to clean it out. That's actually good because I have cleared out some. But to simply say great meeting you without referencing where we met, it just puts a lot of burden on the other person to figure it out. And sadly, some people don't want to do that unless they already kind of knew who you were when you met. So that's another thing. The third thing. Wait, go back to the question again.
No, you're right. We were talking about just really how can really what's the right way to follow up,
Oh, follow up. Yes. Okay, perfect. So the third thing is, like I said, it's great to re-reference what you spoke about. So let's say we talked about how, introverts can do whatever, but extroverts can do this as well. Whatever you were speaking about or whatever you referenced or even your ask, go ahead and say that. You know what I mean? Like me personally, I'm not a person that wants to kind of beat around the bush with you. Because you start to wonder, well, why is this person emailing me? Like, what is the ask? So sometimes if you have an ask, do it. If you're trying to pitch your business, for instance, if you meet me, first off, don't pitch your business verbally. I'm not going to remember. But if you email me and say, hey, I met you at the BCW network event in Ohio, and I'm an entrepreneur. You mentioned such and such about how you cover entrepreneurs. Well, I'm an entrepreneur that does da. So get straight to the point because, again, people get so many emails. They get so many asks. You really want to make it easy on that person to say, hey, let me check her out, or let me check him out, or let me follow up with him. Like I said, some people may disagree with this. Some people do take time to read long emails with descriptors, or they take weeks to kind of date or coax someone. That to me is more on the investment side. Someone needs to get to know you before they invest, even hundreds of dollars on you. They need to get to know you. That's different. I'm talking about just trying to make a connection that's long lasting in terms of getting a client or pitching a client or trying to get a business partner or a sponsor. Go ahead with the ask, and just make sure it's professional and reasonable. If you're going to do an ask, do your research on the company, especially if you're asking for sponsorships or anything to do with money. Oftentimes, companies have their quarters where they've already, approved budgets, and you may have come in at the wrong time with your ask. So you really need to do your research. And sometimes with that as well, like I said, you may need to kind of date or get to know the person first before you go for an investment ask or anything that has to do with money or sponsorship. Because most companies invest with people that they know. And again, just like dating, you have to get to know the person. It's like if I go on a date with you and then you're asking me at the end of the day, okay, so can I move in with you? It's like, whoa, hold on now. We just had a great date. I don't know you well enough to give you a key to my home. When you ask people for money and that sort of thing when you first met them, that's how it feels. It's like, whoa, you want $100,000 from my company, but we don't know your track record. We don't know anybody you've worked with. We don't even know if you're a savory brand or person to even invest in. So in that case, the follow-up should be more of, hey, would you like to get a coffee? Is there any way I could set up something for you to do a presentation on this, because these are the synergies between what I'm doing and what you're doing, and other things of that nature. Like I said, I am very into building relationships first in terms of asking for investment or anything that's going to cost time capital or real capital, because many companies, especially after the recession, are still very tight with that. And even the companies who are not tight with their budget and have money to spend, they spend with who they already know. I've talked to so many people, entrepreneurs, VPs, CEOs, and they'll say, oh, we can't find this for this, or we can't find this company to match this with this, so we're just going to go with this company. And they've already given that company such and such funds allotted for various partnerships or sponsorships simply because they know this person. Right. So sometimes, dating the executive or the VP in terms of networking and building an authentic relationship where you show value add on both sides and not always a gimme, you should do this just because I'm great or my product is great or my company made $1 million last year. Some companies are like, okay, well, we're worth $50 billion. So what are you saying here? You get what I'm saying? You have to have that value ask. So with the follow-up, let's say it's just you as an individual, and you see a synergy there in terms of a professional or a just someone you've met that you think is a leader, you like to glean from them, say that in the email. I've gone to coffees and things with different people who wanted to just get to know me, get to know how I started my business, so say that. Say, hey, I love to grab coffee with you, or I love to do a Google Hangout or Skype. Sometimes you can't grab coffee with everyone either. That's another thing. People get offended when you can't grab coffee with them or can't have dinner with them. Again, that's time capital. And sadly, I would love to have coffee with all the innovative people of the world that I meet, but there's just not enough time. And also, that's very taxing on a person, especially if you're pulling from them, but you're not offering in return. So, you take it easy. Sometimes a person can't get coffee now. Well, just keep in touch with them. Retweet their articles, send them a note of hello every now and then. You might get your chance later on, when they have time in their schedule or you've built somewhat of a relationship. So I hope to answer your question about follow-up.
No, it answers the question. I want to kind of backpedal a little bit. And I know we probably should have talked about this before, but I think people who are new to networking sometimes do not realize networking is not just being in a physical social setting, right? You and I's example. You and I met via Twitter.
Right.
And of course, that led to us establishing a relationship. And eventually then you came here for the conference and did all the fabulous stuff at the conference and all of that. And then, of course, and so as we built our relationship, then we saw each other in Atlanta and spent time there and all that. So I think that, let's talk a little bit about or share what your tips are when it comes to networking via social media and how powerful that can be in connecting with people that you either, admire, want to be able to build relationships with. How do you go about approaching that person via social media to do that? And really, how powerful that can be in monetizing your purpose.
Well, okay, here's the thing about social media. I love connecting with people on social media, especially on Twitter. Like, that just was my biggest thing because it's so quick. You can say so much at a time in short spurts, and also it's very easy to directly reach people. Instagram, not so much. I mean, you can leave comments, but it's much more visual. And Facebook, to me, has a slower groove to it, even still today. There's a comment trail. You maybe can do Messenger, which I don't even really fool with that unless it's like family and friends. So Twitter, for me, is much more instantaneous. People notice it a bit more quickly, and it's short and sweet. I'm very big on short and sweet. Again, other people may disagree. They want to just, go on and on and on. I have to work on this in terms of listening, and I'm working on this. But when someone is pitching me or they're speaking about something, I'm like, okay, what's the point? Like, when are we gonna get to the home run here? So, and some things you can't rush, obviously. But Twitter is a great icebreaker to me, a great kickoff, a springboard, I should say, in terms of meeting people. So on social media, first of all, follow them. Okay, follow. It does mean a lot. If that's someone you want to connect with, again, what's the why? Because sometimes people beg for followers. Here's the thing. Why should I follow you? Okay, if you want to connect with Janelle Hazelwood, there's a reason. So follow me. Follow what I do. Follow what I tweet. Get to know the person that I am via my Twitter personality or even Instagram or Facebook, right? And then after that, get to know me as a person. Retweet things. Show interest. I often do Twitter chats. Those are great. All the companies are doing Twitter chats now. So get involved with those. Retweet those great nuggets that you love and that's part of your industry, your passion. So get to do that. Also, I'll give you a perfect example. There's a young lady, forgive me because I can't remember her name, but she contacted me 3 years ago via Twitter, and I actually found it in my DMs and felt so horrified because I guess I didn't see it at the time. Well, she had retweeted something that I said on Twitter about entrepreneurs and sustaining relationships. And she was like, "Amen, girl, I agree with you. That is so true," or something like that. So it just made me notice her and say, let me go to her page. So then she was saying, well, actually, I I'm actually a strategist, and I'm a person who would love to pitch to you. So that was her opportunity to reintroduce herself. And we've emailed back and forth. I look forward to working with her in the future. And this was all off of Twitter within like literally not even a day. Like it had to have been 10 minutes, that we made this connection. But
Oh,
she's been
wow.
following me for the past few years and had contacted me, and I totally just didn't even see it. Please forgive me. I didn't even see it in my DMs. So this shows you how instantaneously things can happen on social media. I've also gotten freelance writers, contributors who are still with Black Enterprise today. I've hired people from Twitter, finding people. I found experts on Twitter because it's just such an easy reference. It's such a quick reference. You just get to see what people do, what people think, go to their websites and that sort of thing. So the first thing I would say is get engaged with the person. Follow them first of all, because it's just kind of a courtesy. It's kind of like if you're calling somebody all the time, but they never call you. That's just not a relationship. Social media is still supposed to be engaging. Engagement means there's a 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 million way street. You're connecting with so many different people. It goes various different ways, but it's just not a one-way thing. So make sure you're following the person. Support what they do. Retweet what they do. Get involved in Twitter chats. I know Essence, Ebony, Black Enterprise does Twitter chats. BCW Network does Twitter chats, or even Google Hangouts. That's still social media. Instagram. Share their posts. Use Regram. Get involved with some hashtags and start supporting people's campaigns and the things they're working on. They'll notice you. There's another young lady too. Her name is Cesara. She's such a sweetheart. She's been to some of my Boss Moves dinner soirees. I met her on Twitter. Literally, she is such a supporter. Like, she has come on and given her insights. She works with women entrepreneurs as well. Such an awesome person on Twitter. She's always retweeting me. She's always supporting me and saying, hey, go to her stuff, and I'm supporting her. She's done different things with various companies. She's met so many different people. So you have to make sure it's a two-way street. But that's the first thing I would say. Follow the person. Make sure it's a two-way street, and don't just be about the ask. Oh, that's another thing that really gets under my skin. I don't know why it does. I need to pray about that, because anything that gets under your skin is really controlling you. But I just believe there's so many gimme people out here. Like, they figure, you know what? She seems like a nice person. She's done this for me. She's got me media coverage. She's done this and that. She's a nicer editor. Let me just keep asking her for stuff. Don't be that person, because no one's a fool. You get what I'm saying? I like people who are authentic, that will say, hey, Janelle, just shooting you a quick hello. Haven't caught up with you in a while. I've even had PR people who I've consistently worked with constantly will say, hey, no, we have to cover this person because she's a professional. I know her. I know the caliber of client. I know the caliber of event. Simply because this person has built a relationship, not because she's constantly tweeting me saying, cover my client, or constantly emailing me. I don't even know you, but this person will say, hey, Janelle, haven't caught up with you in a while. I see you still looking fabulous, girl. Add conversation to it. Act like you really care. Care about her. Not even act. Care about the people who you're interacting with, because even though it's social media, there's still a person behind that account. So I think it was Mr. Graves who said this. Social media is there, but nothing beats the old school, everyday, person-to-person interaction and
Yes.
the rules of engagement between people. The wealthiest people in the world, to be honest, they use social media because it's something that's the now. It's something that the people they want to reach and make money off are using. But within their multi-millionaire, multi-billionaire networks, they call each other. They text each other. They send Christmas cards. They go to each other's, blessings of their kids. That stuff is still important. So have that foundation even when you're using social media. Think of it that way. Even if you tweet someone and say, hey, Janelle, I heard your birthday is on January 1st. Happy birthday. I'm like, girl, how does she know? That still puts, a great feeling in someone's heart. And that makes you resonate with people where they remember you outside of someone else. Compliment them, Write a comment under one of their blogs on LinkedIn. Share one of their blogs. You know, even though LinkedIn is social media as well. Don't just use those forms for connecting with people either. You know that automated template that says, "Hey, I
Oh
would like to
yeah,
connect with you on LinkedIn."
As Marsha says, the lazy LinkedIn message.
Yeah, like at least change the name, or add their name, or say, you know what, I've even added one that says, you know what, I don't just blindly connect with people on LinkedIn. As a matter of fact, I only use this is the least used platform, but I would love to connect with you beyond just connecting on here on LinkedIn. Hey, here's my email address if you ever want to email me, and let me know if I can be a resource to you. And I've gotten so many, I mean, from top people, like top recruiters, different people that I would say, I'm not even in this person's network, and they responded to me. And I
Yeah, yeah.
believe because of personalizing those connection emails, because it stands out. It's not just that. And also LinkedIn is another thing too. It's still social media, but it's totally different. Me personally, if I have not worked with you or have no intentions of working with you, I'm not going to connect with you. This is not MySpace. This is not Facebook. It's not Instagram. LinkedIn is based highly on real connections of working with people. And I wouldn't want someone to look at my profile and say, hey, she knows this person. And my name is used to vouch for someone that I've never even worked with. That's very dangerous. You just never know. You also never know what people are using LinkedIn for. People have gotten jobs from LinkedIn recommendations and the people that they claim they know on
Right.
LinkedIn. They can go into an interview and say, hey, I'm connected with Oprah Winfrey. I'm connected with this person. And recruiters take that very serious, because when you take a connection, that means you really knew this person. You really know their work ethic, or this is someone of your network, or 6 degrees of separation, 3 degrees of separation, where you can say, yeah, I can vouch for this person because this person has worked with them. So that is why it has a tree of connections. You know what I mean? So LinkedIn is totally different. I'll get connection requests on LinkedIn, and I'm just looking like, we're not even in the same industry, or you're looking for a job. I'm not a recruiter. Or, it's sometimes bizarre. It almost looks like something off of MySpace. Like, why is this
Well,
person
it's
contacting me
bizarre
on
though.
LinkedIn?
It can be bizarre, but I will tell you that is how Marsha Hagan and I met. Marsha and I
Mm-hmm.
met through LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm.
I discovered the Little Black Book of Success. I liked it. I looked her, the co-authors, up, and then I just went on to LinkedIn and I found her, and I sent her, a message. Well, what I did was that I endorsed her first with some of her skills.
Yes.
She replied back and said, thank you for the endorsements. It's always nice to be recognized. And I was like, oh my God, she replied. Or she recognized it, And then that's when I went in and sent her an email and said, thank you for, I just discovered your book, love the book. It's been very helpful. I just complimented her on the book. And then we just started exchanging emails periodically. And then we got, here came the phone call and we connected. So I think it's about how you use it too, because, she didn't know me from Adam, but it was the way
I think that's different though. Yeah, I think that's different though, because she could look at some of what you've done. I'm talking about people connecting with me that are just from, I don't know, it's just bizarre industries. Like, I can't even think. It almost looks like, what are you connecting with me for? It's almost like when people do the card collecting. I don't know. I guess it's just a game of discernment. It's like, why are you collecting my card when you work in some industry that's just not related to what I'm doing here? You get what I'm saying? I don't know how to read an example because I'm a media professional, so maybe that's why I get some of the weird.
Yeah, you probably do, because with your
Maybe they want like coverage or something like that. But with you, for instance, you both are professional women who have worked in corporate America. You both have a similar branding in terms of the professionalism of it and the synergy of industry. So with something like that, I can see why she would connect with you. And also, there's probably someone down the line that she knows that you know as well. But when I get someone who's like, I don't know, someone who hasn't graduated from college. Okay, let's say you have someone who's like a doctorate candidate, and it says nothing on their profile but that. And you're like, well, why would we connect? Are you trying to do some research? And if that's the case, you should have connected with me on Twitter or Google. I'm all over the place. You can Google me. So LinkedIn just seems weird to connect with someone in that manner who has no experience. Their profile is pretty barren, but they want to connect with me. That's the thing. Like, if this was MySpace or Twitter, different story. You know, because Twitter just has like that fun, you know, quick and easy. Hey, you know, this is a follower. Maybe they really admire what I do. Maybe they want to see what I'm about. So, hey, I'll follow them, or they can follow me or whatever. But LinkedIn is more about authentic, real, professional connections. People are going to say, okay, this doctoral candidate, how do you know this person? Or this person could say, hey, yeah, Janelle's a connection of mine on LinkedIn, you know, and I'm like, who? You know, so it's okay, I'll liken it to this. It's one thing if you went to Marsha Hager's office and you said, hi, I'm CEO of such and such and such. And they say, okay, cool, we don't know you, but I'll see if she has some time in her schedule, or I'll give her the message. Versus if you came up and you were like, hey, I'm just popping into the office. I have no job, but I'm here to see Marsha Hager. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's really weird. It's weird. It's like, okay, so what's the purpose here? The receptionist obviously would say, ma'am, I'll take your info, but she may not pass it along. You get the credibility is just a little different with LinkedIn in terms of connecting. That's all I'm saying.
No, so I think what we want to pass on to the viewers right now is that if you're utilizing LinkedIn as your tool to do a lot of your virtual networking, right? That making sure that you have a strategy on how you go about connecting with the people that you desire to connect with. Because if you're not doing it in the right way, you're not going to get any responses. It's just, you know, your email going into a black hole, or your message is going into a black hole.
It's totally
so just
different.
making sure you strategic in how on LinkedIn, be strategic in how you approach them. You probably would need to be more strategic using LinkedIn to try to network versus Twitter,
right,
or some of the other social media, because versus the actual traditional social media platforms, and doing it that way. So I've got a couple of people that I want to make sure that we acknowledge. Nisi Black, hi Nisi, if you're still watching.
Hi.
Nisi just said great info, and thank you for the etiquette tips. And I think she's following you now on Twitter, I believe.
Oh,
so
thank you.
Thank
you, Nisi.
Thank you. And then we have Miss Whitney White, Big Wit. How you doing, lady? Now,
hello.
She wanted to share that, you know, Twitter, she loves using Twitter, and she does. She's very savvy at using Twitter, and she just wanted to make a comment about those who have Facebook to check their spam filters, because she missed out on a huge opportunity with the major network because she wasn't connected with them on Facebook, and the message came in as a direct spam folder. I mean, went right into her spam folder. So she, she just wanted to share to check your spam folders for messages, because she missed out on a network opportunity because she didn't check that. So just make sure, and it's true. So make sure that you do that. And she also said, talk to them on social media, because you always try to find their email. If you can, find their email and contact them directly when the time is right. So she's saying this. Find their email, hold on to it, and then when the time is right, reach out to them for whatever reason. So thank you for that, Whitney, for sharing the tips in your experience. And she's right about the spam mailbox. I check my spam mail often too, because there's sometimes you do get messages that automatically go into there that may not be spam, but for whatever trigger is in that email, that's where it went to.
Right.
So,
and also Facebook also has on the Messenger as well. There's another option where you can check. There's something about not new messages, but there's unread messages in there that you never knew were there, of people who were trying to contact you but may not be following you. So you definitely want to check all of those filters on your social media. Also, here's another thing too, because my Facebook, because somebody's probably cringing right now saying, oh, well, Janelle, you have a Facebook, but you never answer mail and email with that. I'm so terrible with some of the other platforms. I'm very big on Twitter and Instagram. Those are my two boos right now. Facebook, I've kind of been really cheating on Facebook, so I really need to get back to that. So I would also say this as well. If you have if you have social media platforms where you're more apt to use or are thriving on those, or you find that that's where more of the people who you would like to connect with are on, the way in which you communicate, try to focus more on those. Now, for me, I can't really do that because I'm a media personality, so I definitely do need to be on Facebook. I'm definitely missing out on the audience there, but which I do plan to improve on that. But and I'm not afraid to admit that, you know, that's somewhat of a weak point of mine. But if you're an everyday professional, you don't need to have all of the platforms if that's not something that you're going to be using consistently, because sometimes you can turn people off when you don't respond to them or you're not engaging with people simply because you're not using it. It's kind of like you're not in the game. It's kind of like if you're at a party but you're like kind of sitting by yourself not talking to anyone. It's almost like, why are you here? So, you know, just be conscious of that as well. Your filters, as well as, you know, maybe cutting down a few of the platforms that you may be on to kind of maximize on your time and efforts in using the ones that you do have an interest in.
So let's recap some of the things that we covered tonight. In terms of okay, Whitney, she said a great career conversation. Thank you, Whitney. And so let's recap real quick. So what's the key things you want the viewers to walk away with in terms of what you want them to know tonight? Go back to give two tips to introverts in terms of being able to work the room.
Okay, so introverts first, wear or be something that brings attention to yourself, not something bad. So if it's a hat, if it's your hair, if it's a brooch, a nice colored or printed jacket or something that will bring attention to you, definitely do that if that's your thing. Or use an icebreaker from the panel discussion or from an issue that you are passionate about or that is related to the event that you are. Secondly, use your introvert qualities to your advantage. Watch the room, know who's in there, look how people move and shake, get to know who you should be talking to versus talking to everyone, and use that whole introvert quality to your advantage. And, you know, just break the ice, you know, test yourself, go out at least once a month, maybe even twice a month, and go out to a park or a bar or a restaurant, bring a friend, you know, if you want to feel a little bit safe, more safe, and challenge yourself to meet a stranger and tell yourself, you know what, I'm going to challenge myself. Today I'm going to just say hello to someone. The next day I'm just going to try to spark a conversation. Oh, and watch others, you know, watch how others move. Sometimes we may feel a bit awkward or we may feel like, well, what should I say? Or I'm nervous. Watch how other people move. I've learned a lot about that, me being an introvert myself. I've seen people like Ty Beauchamp or Alfred Edmond Jr. or Derek Dingle or even Mr. Graves or, you know, other women and men that I admire who know how to work a room or who already have a set group of people who are their advisors or who admire them. I watch how they move in a room, what they say to people, how they shake their hands, how they look into their eyes, how they break the ice. So, you know, watch others too that, you know, you may glean from them, and actually you could kind of mimic it and make it your own, you know, until you kind of get into the groove of things. So that would be my tips for introverts.
Okay, good. All right, next one would be in terms of the follow-up. Give let's do just kind of a recap of, you know, tips in terms of following up. Did I just say that? I don't remember now. I'm getting old now. I didn't say that right.
Yes. So the follow-up, two different scenarios. Like I said, the first one is if you're just a professional, let's say Sherry and I are just meeting and I want to follow up with her. Be sure to do it at least within 24 hours. Don't just collect cards. Always know the why. First of all, why do I want to connect with Sherry? I kind of already knew I was career editor at the time. She was head of the Black Career Women's Network. I really love what she was doing. So I saw synergies there. So whether we would be besties or not, I already knew there's something there. So have a bit of discernment and know your why. Don't just collect cards. When you do get cards, try to email them as soon as you get home and just say, great meeting you. Make sure you make it personal. So I would say, Sherry, it was great meeting you at such and such. Be sure to add those details because some people get so many emails, they will not remember where they met you. And though they want to, it's just sometimes not possible. So it's great to make yourself stand out. If you have an ask, definitely just go ahead with it. Don't beat around the bush, but don't be too aggressive. Now, when it comes to investments, money, time capital, sponsorships, that's something you need to really coax the relationship. You really need to really need to get to know the person, because people don't give money to people who they don't believe in their story, they don't get to know their story or who they are, or they don't know them and what the return on investment could be or should be. So don't just go and ask a company to be a media sponsor for such and such, or to give you 150 grand without doing research, or at least without saying, hey, can we get up a coffee? Can I make a presentation? I think these synergies would be great for your company, and here's what the benefits would be for you as well as for me. So it should be a give and take. It should be an ask that shows value. It can't be just because you're great or you made $1 million last year and this company is worth billions and already has, approve the budgets. That's another thing. You need to really get to know, research some of the budgets. And the only way to do that is to get to know some of the executives or some of the key players who make those sorts of decisions, or at least the people who work on their teams who help them make those decisions. So even if it's their receptionist, their assistant, someone else under them, don't just go for the big guy. Say to yourself, hey, let me, get to know this person, and be authentic about it. Don't just be about, oh, I'm just getting to know this person because they can do this for me, or this person could get me, $100,000. It shouldn't just be because of that. You really want to be authentic. So get to know that person first. Have a value add. Don't be a person, a gimme, gimme, gimme person, and get to know, especially with investments, the proper time to do the ask, when the budgets are being approved, what types of budgets are approved, what types of companies do they typically invest in, or events they typically invest in, because sometimes you may do this big pitch, but there was never a synergy in the first place. It just doesn't make sense business-wise. So though they would love to say yes to you, it just doesn't make business sense. So just be sure you know that before you make the ask. So that's the second scenario. If you're looking for investors, partners, sponsorships, that's something you want to have more personable follow-up with, not just emails, not just texting. You may want to call them and then follow up with an email, especially if they told you to call them. Like I said, movers and shakers, multimillionaires, Fortune 500 CEOs, they don't say things just to be saying them. They did not get to their position just to be, blowing smoke up your tail. They don't do that. So when they give you their card and say call, I made this mistake with a major CEO early in my career. And I saw him again, and he said, I gave you my card and you emailed me. And I just was mortified, because I thought, as a young person, well, we email. He's like, but I told you to call me. And this is a major CEO. So, you don't want to make that mistake. I mean, he kind of chuckled it off, but you just never know how you may have lost a future opportunity by the way in which you follow up with someone. So if they correspond with them in the way in which they asked or requested, or, the safest bet is to do an email to say, hey, introduce something else, and go from there. Yep.
Yeah, and I think that's a good, that was a good tip that you gave in terms of, listening to listening and how they want to be communicated with, specifically if it's come up in the conversation. Because if you don't listen to that, again, like you said, you could miss out on an opportunity of some sort. So now let's talk about the last one, which is, which I know that I want to make sure that we covered about, the social media piece, being able to network via social media. Give a couple of things that they could, just to follow up, 2 things that they need to consider strategizing to network that way.
Okay, so with social media, first, don't be too aggressive. Follow the person that you're interested in corresponding with. Treat it as though you're in person. So you don't want to be that awkward, aggressive person. Follow me, follow me, follow me. I sent you an email. I sent you an email. I sent you an email. Hey, look at me. Here am I. Here am I. You don't want to be that person. Think about what you wouldn't want done to you. And though that can be subjective in terms of being too aggressive, that can be subjective, I would tread on the simple, respectful side. Just watch and let people be. Sometimes if you're not getting a response from them, it may not be anything personal to you. Don't take it personal. So the first thing is follow them. Secondly, engage with them as if you were doing it in person. So don't do anything that you wouldn't do to the person in person. I think people forget that with social media. And even at least in person, I can see your body language, or I can give you the benefit of the doubt. I can see your eyes and stuff. But on social media, I will totally think like you're a weirdo or you're being rude, which may not be the case. But because social media, you don't have human interaction, I can't tell. So since I don't know you, I'm going to already assume, and I'm done with it. Like, I'm not even going to invest my time in trying to decipher that. So just tread lightly, be respectful, treat it as though you're doing something in person. And it's kind of like dating, you know, don't do something that you wouldn't want done to you. Also, be sure to be involved in their campaigns, Twitter chats, support the things that they do. And then, you know, if there's something that they're looking for and they ask for it on Twitter and you're able to offer it, you know, go in for the kill. You know, definitely invest in following people. Like I said, social media is a tool. It's not the end all be all. It's a byproduct of what happens in real life. So always remember that. I mean, when you're on social media, remember what is the premise behind what you're doing? What is the why? And how can it be perceived? Some of us are just impulsive, and some of us will do things out of emotion. So don't necessarily do that, because I've gotten that as well. Someone, let's say they thought, you know, it's been a day and I should respond to them. To me, that comes off a bit arrogant. And to be honest, I'm more apt to ignore you, actually. And that's probably wrong, but I just think it's rude. I'm very big on being respectful. And I'm also very big on, you know, I'm not Oprah yet, but I do work for national publications. And I do get many inquiries. So give people the benefit of the doubt. If they didn't respond to you, or if they didn't get your email supposedly, or didn't respond, don't take it personal. Even if they are ignoring you, that's their problem, not yours. You know, again, like in real life, again, dating, you wouldn't just show up at homeboy's house who didn't call you back after the date. I mean, come on, that's just crazy. Okay, so on social media, don't do that. Didn't you see my email? Or I tried to email you. Like, girl or dude, please take a chill pill. Again, that just, it doesn't come off well. Or I send a request to you for this amount. Or, you know, one time someone rudely tweeted me and said, I'm not going to mention the company or the name, but they said, you guys do all these companies and our company has made such and such amount of money and you have not covered us. I said, dude, now that's your pitch? Because, honey, you have lost me with the negativity, honey. So, you know, and that gets around the office. That's not the way to pitch yourself on social media. That's not the way to follow up. What you should do is, hey, Janelle, you know, I read an article about this. Here's my company. And then maybe later you can say, you know what, I did pitch to you guys 5 years ago when we made $1 million and I didn't hear, you know, let it be something that's tongue in cheek after you get to know the person. But he came off very rude. It got all around the office, and he did not get any. I'm sorry, he just didn't get any coverage. And turns out, it just wasn't a story at the time. It just didn't pan out. Those people you already know, there's something there where it's just not. It's not professional, and the story didn't even pan out in the first place. So you kind of knew where that was coming from. And people don't ignore people, by the way. Anyone who's, especially media people, anyone who's really interested in making boss moves, who's really interested in engaging with people, they don't ignore people. They don't, because you never know where there's an opportunity. You could be missing out on something. So keep that in mind. The top leaders, they want that next big idea. They want to partner with great people. They want to work with great people. It's just sometimes timing. It could be, you know, business issue. It could be anything. So just give people the benefit of the doubt when you're following up. The fourth thing is, make sure it's a two-way street. Like I said, don't just be the person with the ask, or don't be just the person who you're following, you're just lurking. You never like anything, you never retweet anything, but then later on you get an email that says, hey, can you support my campaign? Can you support my event? I'm like, you follow me, but you never like anything I post. You know, you don't support things. So it's a two-way street. That's the last thing I want to leave you guys with. Social media, following, and networking, period, whether on social media or in person, is a two-way street. Give people the benefit of the doubt. Be respectful. Be yourself. Have an ask that has an added-in benefit to it. Don't just be a person who's expecting to get from people just because you think you're great. I mean, you are great, but I need to know what's the return on the investment, you know. And, you know, treat it like every day, you know, the old school networking, because, again, your top earners, they're on the phone with people. You know, they're at meetings. they're talking to people on Christmas, and they're really connecting with people who they're making money with. So keep that in mind when you're doing follow-up and networking with people. The authenticity and the old school rules of respect and real communication. I think that's key.
Yeah, and I have to say, I'm an old school gal. I like to pick up the phone and call you. I mean, that's just me, and not everybody's like that. So the ones who like to be, want you to communicate out by email, I'm like, okay, but that's just me. I like to pick up the phone and talk to you. And sometimes, and I think for me, it's just because I can just get my words across better. I mean, it's just easier for me to kind of elaborate verbally that way. So, but good, that was good stuff, Janelle. Thank you for the recap on that. So I hope the viewers were able to get some really good notes from what she just shared. And so we always want to have Janelle back, don't we? Because she's always such a wealth of knowledge. So we love her. Thank you. WN. So I'm hoping you guys got some really good notes from what she had shared for tonight's career conversation. So Janelle, hold on, don't hang up or anything like that. I just want to share a couple of announcements really quick. Really before I do that though, any last words that you want to share with the viewers, Janelle?
Oh, yes. I definitely want to say, in terms of networking, you can definitely connect with me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. I promise I'll check it, but I'm really on Twitter and Instagram at JP Hazelwood. That's JP as in Patrice, Hazelwood, HAZELWOOD as in dog. You can tweet at me, follow me. As long as it's related to professional stuff or you're a cool person, you may have some questions. I also host Boss Moves Twitter chats. We just had one today that was phenomenal with 3 awesome women talking about financial fitness. And so I host those as well to connect with people. So I love engaging with people who are authentic, who are innovators, who are just trying to follow and monetize their purpose, and who are spiritually based as well. I love connecting with you guys as well. That's a whole nother aspect, but I'm definitely a spiritually based person. I like to treat people with respect, but also I like to run my life in a way that's led by God. I mean, I'm not perfect by any means, but that's something that, if you want to talk about. Also, I still cover content for Black Enterprise as well as other publications. So if you do have any awesome, entrepreneurs that you think would be worthy of coverage, or who you think are great stories, I can't guarantee anything, but connect with me on there. I'm very open. People will tell you this. I'm very open to connecting with people, and I'm very open to moving by purpose. Sometimes I'm just led to do things. I've met people where it's like, okay, why would she cover this person? But it's like I feel like there's something there, and there really 90% of the time there is something there. So, feel free to tweet me, DM me, email me. I'm on Google. Email me, Instagram, whichever, and let's get connected. I also help women and minority entrepreneurs and nonprofit owners with their branding and media strategy. So if you ever need those sorts of services, I'm very confident that I undercut the competition in terms of the fees, and I'm very flexible, but also I just have a purpose of trying to help you do better and reach a larger audience in order to be more competitive, because we have a lot of innovative and awesome women and minority entrepreneurs who, though they have awesome services, awesome innovations, they're just not able to compete at the level of their some of the big dogs because they're not presenting themselves in the best way possible. So I would love to help you with that. So if you're interested in that, you can tweet me as well, Instagram, send me a note on Facebook, or reach me via Gmail. All right. And then the last thing I always say on anything I do is this: my life's motto: happiness is a luxury afforded only to those who are able to monetize and follow their God-given purpose. So always remember that. Stay in prayer. Do things that are purposeful. You're not always going to be perfect. You may change these things, but it's great to be led by purpose, not by money, not by people, not by ego, not by keeping up with the Joneses. You'll lead a much happier life if you're able to do that. So I'm willing to speak with anybody about that as well if you want to know more about that. So yeah, that's my last words. And thank you so much, Sherry, for having me. I actually have to go, you guys. But thank you so much, Sherry, and we'll definitely be doing more, you guys, with the Black Career Women's Network. So thank you. Everyone have a great night.
Yes, good night, Janelle.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye. You guys, thanks for tuning in. A couple of announcements I want to share with you all before we go ahead and end the career conversation tonight. Next week's career conversation, we're going to have Jacqueline Twilley, careers expert. She's also a negotiation strategist as well. She is going to be on our career conversation, and we're going to be talking about from bachelor's to master's. Earning what your new worth is now that you've got your education. So, talking about how to negotiate when you do receive that master's degree, or if you go from a bachelor's to a master's, or learning how to now negotiate your new worth, what you're worth now. And she's going to she's going to be on our career conversation and doing some tips and things in reference to teaching you how to do that. And then the week after that, which is going to be Wednesday, June 8th, is going to be the first episode, should I say, of our new series, which is the Corner Office. And I'm really excited about that. And for those of you who may not be familiar with the Corner Office, it is our new series. It is a leadership series. So we're going to have women specifically on this particular series talking about their leadership lessons and advice and triumphs and things that we can learn as Black women to become leaders. We know that statistically that there's not a lot of us in those high-level, C-level CEO roles in terms of being able to impact organizations from that leadership standpoint. So the Corner Office is going to be all about leadership and really what are the things that you need to learn to get there, and learning from the people learning from the Black career women who have done it. So that's what we're going to be, that will be on June 8th. Please tune in. That's going to be so awesome. And our special guest is going to be Dr. Avis Jones DeWeaver. She is the author of the new book called How Exceptional Black Women Lead. I purchased this book for $9.99 on my Kindle. It has been a very wonderful, enlightening eye-opener in a lot of different perspectives. So definitely we'll be talking about that book and some things from that book in reference to what you need to know in terms of leading, not just leadership from a standpoint as a Black woman, but a woman overall. And then what does that look like in terms of diversity in the workplace as well? So that's going to be on June 8th. So I wanted to share with you guys, please, if you're not a member of BCWM, please join. You can go to our website to become a member. And right now we are offering 50% off memberships. All you have to do is use a special code BCWN off and use that code, and you get 50% off your annual membership. So just wanted to share that for those of you who are currently maybe not be a member, but may be interested in doing so. So I want to leave you with this quote, which is, the life God gave you is larger than the life you've been living, which means that God gives us all special gifts. But it's our job to discover what those gifts are and use those gifts to work in your purpose. So I'm going to leave you with my quote, which is know your worth, discover your strengths, and work in your purpose. And I hope to see you guys next week, or either on our Twitter chat with Ms. Whitney White on Monday, or we'll see you next Wednesday for our next career conversation. Have a good night, you all.